Imagine a tradition born out of necessity, an incident in history where yeast, or rather the lack of it, played a pivotal role. This is the story of Yeaster, a unique tradition celebrated by the Jewish community worldwide. Our tale begins centuries ago when Jewish people found themselves in a desert, stranded without yeast. For an extended period, they had to rely on matzah, a type of unleavened bread. When the new supplies of yeast finally arrived, it was a moment of pure joy and relief, a moment that eventually transformed into a tradition now known as Yeaster. Central to the Yeaster tradition is a playful and engaging activity where children search for yeast hidden in the garden, just like their forefathers did in the desert. In the old days, the Jews searched for yeast in the desert for 60 years, but in order to speed up the process, a few packets of baker's yeast has been hidden in the garden at easy-to-spot locations. In the past, some kids have been tricked into believing that the yeast has been buried 7 feet underground at a spooky cemetery. The prankster, a local gravedigger, went on a week's holiday while the kids were digging the holes he was supposed to dig. A word of caution always follows this quest, the parents warning the children about the potential consequences of eating the yeast, namely, loud, smelly farts. But there is always that one uncle, the family's black sheep, the one without a promising academic career, who encourages the children to eat the yeast, assuring them that a little bit won't hurt. In the old days, yeast was put in the latrines by pranksters, making the latrines overflow. Luckily, this prank became obsolete when water closets became standard. The yeast, once found, is brought inside and baked into a delightful cake called Gugelhupf. This cake is not just a culinary delight, but also a symbol of togetherness. As the family gathers around the table to share the cake, they share stories, reminiscences, and laughter, creating a warm and joyful atmosphere that truly embodies the spirit of Yeaster. Interestingly, Yeaster takes a wildly different turn in the Amazon rainforest. Here, the tradition involves licking toads and dancing around a fire naked, wearing eerie masks. While some argue that this Amazonian version of Yeaster is more fun than the traditional celebration, since they do not need to spend a day bickering with relatives why their older sibling is being more successful. Despite both being lawyers, the question of whether or not it is kosher arises. Rabbi Ira Schneiderman, however, proposes that since the toad isn't being consumed, it might indeed fall into a kosher loophole. He said there is no mention in the Torah that you are not allowed to kiss a pig, so licking a toad would be perfectly fine. Yeaster, in essence, is a celebration of joy, family, and tradition. It's about savoring delicious food and drink, creating memories, and appreciating the importance of togetherness. To recap, Yeaster is a unique tradition named after yeast, the key ingredient in the holiday centerpiece, the Gugelhupf. The celebration varies across communities, with the Amazonian version involving toad licking and fire dancing. While the kosher status of the Amazonian version is debatable, the tradition, in all its forms, brings together families and communities in a joyous celebration. And remember, it's all fun and games until someone eats the yeast and gets smelly farts.